With the current state of technology, millions of pieces of information can be found with just the click of a button. Since information is so easily accessible, I wanted to find out where UT students go to find their news.
Where do I get my news? Well, I get different types of news from different outlets. So my national news, unfortunately, usually comes from Twitter. I guess that's the case for everyone who's kind of not old, because Twitter is constantly feeding you information. It's instant gratification. So I'm constantly getting all this information and all this news that sometimes is useful to me, sometimes isn't useful to me. Kind of university news I'm getting from the Beacon or from TVC, the volunteer channel. It just really depends on kind of where I hear it. Sometimes it's word of mouth. If somebody's like, hey, did you hear about this? I'm like, oh no, I didn't, so I go check it out. More local news I tend to get from WBIR or my hometown, like newspapers, since they're the only people who actually report on anything in my hometown. So it just really depends. I try to watch newscasts as often as I can, which isn't very often because I don't really have that much time. But, you know, I just kind of get pieces from everywhere, and it works out so far.
I use Twitter a lot for that. I follow several dozen news outlets on Twitter. I also use newsmap.jp. It congregates the highest ranking news stories from Google, so I go through that a lot. I don't really use Facebook. It's because I rather just find my news by on my own. Yeah, Newsmap, Twitter, basically where I go to.
Here, Taylor Beacon.
I follow a lot of news sources on Twitter, so whatever I see them talking about repetitively, then I was like, okay, this is something big. Then I go on and try and find out more about the story. But each morning I also try and watch a news show as I'm getting dressed, just so I can hear something that's background noise. And also I have different news organization apps on my phone as well, so when I'm bored or something, I just go through the phone and just kind of look at the apps right then.
Obviously, New York Times, that kind of stuff.
Okay, I get my news mostly from Twitter, honestly. If I'm not able to watch the Vols game, I don't really use an ESPN Score Center thing. I just check my Twitter updates. I check online New York Times every day, and those are probably the two main things, Twitter and the New York Times. And then of course my Facebook timeline, but I don't really use print products very often, and I don't really use any other newspapers other than New York Times online.